Good. Okay, so
so we're going to introduce you a few studies covering the development of the capacity to interpret the pictures of the children. So we're going to deal with the problem in a pure cognitive semiotic way by a spiral. Our major problem is how to set up an experiment with children that would allow us to conclude that there is some sense in children who are unable to find a reference on the picture can still understand the picture in some way.
Okay, so the theory that we are concerning in the experiment and our whole work is what does exactly understanding of a picture mean? And here's the view presented by Göran Sonesson. The ability to identify and depict object or a scene is only a part of what it means to understand pictures. Indeed, while a similarity relation, that is iconicity, is essential for something to be a picture in the first place, although it should be noted that similarity is not identity, this similarity is nevertheless generally not the focus of the communicated meaning. Pictures are used to communicate about things and thoughts that are, so to speak, externistic to the picture. A growing number of studies have taken stock on this fact, observing that the recognition of the similarity between is not coextensive, without understanding that one of these items is a sign for the other.
And here we have other example describing what understanding of a picture really is. Here we have quotation of the Loach's paper. Young infants can recognize pictures of familiar people and objects. This fact has been misinterpreted to mean that pictures are understood by infants. This interpretive error stems in part from common failure to distinguish between recognition versus comprehension or understanding of pictures, in spite of the fact that Ziegler long ago pointed out the necessity of drawing such a distinction. Several studies are reported that focus on very young children's use of pictures to guide their search for a hidden toy. The results reveal that 2-year-old children have a surprising degree of difficulty understanding that pictures can serve as a useful source of information about human situation. Finally, these results are discussed in terms of the general development of pictorial contents as the long-standing debate about the role of experience in understanding pictures.
Now we're going from theoretical considerations of what does it mean to understand the picture for empirical research. Here's an example of an experiment that focuses on the action of children to find a hidden object by the lodge. The child stayed in a small room while the experimenter hid the toy in another big room. Then the experimenter returned to the room with the child and showed him the picture that depicts the location of the toy, the Snoopy dog. And then the experimenter asked the picture, this is where the Snoopy is hiding in his room, and can you find him? If the subject failed to find the doll on his first search, the experimenter prompted the child by saying Snoopy is hiding in the same place as I pointed to the picture. If the subject failed to find the doll on the second search, the experimenter delivered a set of increasingly explicit prompts until the doll was found. The child holding the doll was then led back into the small room to begin with the next experiment.
Results. The 6 studies reveal a dramatic developmental change between 24 and 30 months of age in the use of pictorial information about the location of a hidden object. When present with a picture that showed the location of a hidden toy, 13-month-old really retrieved the toy, but 24-month-old did not. The extremely poor performance of the 24-month-old was replicated and shown to persist in spite of various modifications made in the task in effort to improve performance. The conclusion is that a 21-month-old subject did not interpret the pictures as a representation of current reality.
But in the Loach paper is also another interesting finding. In contrast, children were very successful when the task was to rather put the doll in the deficit location than to find it retrieved. Thus we assumed that the children, despite that they didn't complete the task to retrieve the toy, can still understand the picture in some way.
And there is another important thing that Loach didn't focus on in her experiments, and this is a problem of perseveration. Thomas Zudendorf, in his remarkable paper, noticed that 2 years old children failed in retrieve task because they tried to search in the same place where the object was hidden in the previous trial. He mostly eliminated this factor by arranging 4 different experimental rooms. The result was quite surprising, up to 59 of errorless trials. This suggests that even 24 months can understand the picture in certain situations when perseveration is reduced. Moreover, Somerson claims that more indexical relation with high contiguity with reality, even in iconic resources based on similarities such as video, led 2-year-old children to use a live video as a valuable source of information.
Okay, so here's the setup of the experiment. The experiment tested 4 resources. There was baseline, pre-recorded video, live video, and the mirror that showed an action of hiding a token in a cup. I'm not sure if it's visible, but the child's table was placed in front of the occluder, with a rectangular opening, and in baseline condition, the opening it was open, and in the live video condition and video condition, it was replaced with a screen, with a monitor. On the child's right-hand side, there was placed another table, which was the retrieval place. Yes, and in the baseline condition, on the other side, here, on the other side of the occluder, the experimenter was which showed the child the hiding event, where he hid the token. And in the live video, the hiding act was streamed, and child could see on the screen the experimenter leaving his space and coming back to it. In pre-recorded video, in the condition of pre-recorded video, the video was filmed in another place with another experimentator, not the same as the previous one. And in the last condition, with mirror, the experimenter switched positions in his area, so she would face the mirror, which was right here on the top.
So there are conclusions. Children were significantly more successful in live video trial. That was due to the most prominent to perceive contiguity. Experimenter walking from his place to retrieval. Pre-recorded video was the most discontinuous one due to different hiding person and turning of the monitor. Mirror, however, was problematic because of the direction and inverted and displaced vision.
Our another task was to consider in what way mirror images are different from video strips and picture, and the strip sense. There are minor differences between them. First one, mirror and video clip. A video clip have more contiguity than mirror. In the mirror, it's not as direct as in a live video. Pre-recording gifted radio have no strict connection with reality here and now. Basically, pre-recorded radio differ from pictures just because of movement. Mirror and pictures. Mirror images are different from ordinary pictures. The mirror is first of all an artifact, the effect of which is to produce a sign, and more precisely an iconical sign. It has the mirror image. Pictures don't contain any movement. Pictures have very limited contiguity. The mirror, however, also is not an ultimate contiguity resource, as shown in experiment, but reflection have a real connection to movement in a real world. Mirror understanding, on the other hand, cannot stay within the picture world. If we accept fictive cases, as Ali is going through the looking glass, mirror and reality, mirror images are displaced compared to actual reference. Mirror image is also inverted.
According to Learning 2009 and this one is in 2011, and the laws with her hint about the contextualization of pictures, we can consider that this is possible that the picture, considered as a part of the picture world, can be understood earlier than the picture as a representation of the real world, and that children can still understand the picture in some way. We set up an experiment to check whether the child understands the picture if we set the experiment in the variation of picture world conditions. So the subjects for experiment was at least a group of 16 24-month-old children, 8 males and 8 females. The materials that we used, there's two different pictures all have to be used. One of the picture presents a doll in the room, the second shows the same room from a different angle and without a doll inside it. The procedure was to present a picture that depicted a Snoopy dog in the room, and the picture is shown in the range of the child grasp, so we can check if the child really wants to grasp the Snoopy the dog, because maybe he isn't using the reality with the picture. Next, the experimenter point at the location on the screen. For example, if it closes, saying that Snoopy is going to hide here. After that, we present the next picture that depicts the same room, but without Snoopy this time, and from other angle, and maybe in a black and white tone.
Yes, and our predictions to the first experiment are that if the child will successfully point the hiding place, we can assume that he can understand the picture. Child can see the content of the picture, can perform rotating operations in his mind on it, and use the knowledge acquired by previous picture to the point of a proper hiding place. This would show us that a child that is unable to find a reference to real world can actually understand the picture in a real world, in a picture world. I'm sorry. A problem of decontextualization of pictures in the world.
Our second experiment have the same subject group. Materials that we use was 5 geometrical figures, a blue cylinder, 3 of random prisms, 1 yellow cube, yellow cylinder, a picture of a yellow cylinder that would fit in a children's hand for the same purpose as in the Snoopy dog experiment, and a mirror and a tray to place on the ground with figures placed on it. The procedure was with the 4 stages. The first stage was to show a child a picture of yellow cylinder, asking him to choose an item from a blue cylinder and 2 over random prisms. The second stage was to ask the child to choose the item depicted on the picture from the yellow cylinder, yellow cube, and a random prism. Stage 3, we should show a child a picture of yellow cylinder, asking him to choose this item from a yellow cylinder and 2 random prisms. Stage 4, we place the child back and place the mirror in a way the child can see objects. Then we point at the yellow cylinder on the mirror image and ask the child to take this item.
Okay, so what are the predictions? For the first and second stage, if the child would choose either yellow cube or blue cylinder, we can assume that the children can abstract a single feature of an object, of a picture, and then extrapolate it to the reality. Thus, the child is interpreting a picture and constitute the criterion of choosing an object in real life. For instance, as in this case, geometry or color. This should indicate that the child can actually understand the picture. In stage 3, the case is pretty much simple. When a child chooses a yellow cylinder, then it can see a similarity between the picture and the real world. But this is not a strong evidence. Reason being, this may be an example of recognition rather than understanding. And with the 4th stage, we would like to check the effect of contiguity. Sorry. If child sees itself in the mirror and can extrapolate this feeling to the real world on other things in the world. We are also curious what possible effect it may have if we point on the object reflected in the mirror.
The ideal situation to test whether the child are able to understand the picture without being able to find its depicted object will be a situation with pictures used with the high level of contiguity. However, we cannot do it as simple as in case of live video, because pictures are clearly static. In our opinion, the closest attempt to expose the contiguity of pictures was the addition to the experiment that Delo just made. We're talking about adding a Polaroid camera that clearly showed a link between making a picture and the reality. However, when the LaRoche exposed a Polaroid and showed the children how it really works, that it doesn't really help, and the results were unsatisfying.
Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from the audience?
No question.
So, thank you.